All right, let's talk about money. Now, why are you working? You're working to make money. Well, anybody who tells you otherwise is lying. We get jobs, we get careers, we're motivated by money. That's just the fact of life. The problem I see most as a coach is that people are too invested in money. Hear me out for a minute. And this is not coming from some wealthy banker who's never had hardships. I mean, if you've watched my previous videos, you've known there have been points very much earlier on in my career where I had so little money that I at one point got a phone call from my wife and the electricity was being shut off and I didn't have enough money to pay that bill. So I've been there in the really stressful financial situations. However, I want to tell you, when you're thinking about your career, and we'll get to how you should choose what role in later videos, but for this video, there's one thing I want to impress on you, and that is do not always go for the job that pays the best. A very typical role to go for in finance is to be an investment banking analyst. There are people who excel at that, and there are people who, yes, it is the right choice. But the commitment, the amount of hours you have to put into it, the fact that you really do sacrifice your weekends, you won't be able to be as committed to your families necessarily. And are you ready for that pressure? Do you have the skill set for it? Those are questions that do need to be answered. Just the fact that it's one of the best paying jobs in finance does not mean it's right for you. And that doesn't mean, and that also means it should not necessarily be your first, second, or even third choice. As somebody who's been through a whole gamut of roles in finance, I can tell you this with confidence. Unless you're planning on having a lot of kids and sending them to private school, every single role in finance at a hedge fund or at a bank can work. I mean that wholeheartedly. IT jobs, being a developer, project manager, no matter what it is, you can make enough money to support an average family, even in a city like New York. I hear a lot from people who are directors in very wealthy areas, managing giant books about, oh, people think I'm so rich because I make $600,000-$700,000 a year. Oh, they have no idea. The private school, the tuitions, the this and that. I kind of sympathize a little. I understand, yes, the more you make, the harder life gets in a way because bills, taxes are crazy and everyone assumes you have more money and you have to spend more and it's a little crazy. But having been on the much lower end of the spectrum and survived at some points comfortably, I can tell you that making a just barely six-figure salary is totally fine for one or two kids in New York. And I've seen a lot of people and I've had managers in my career at some points be there and do completely fine. With all that being said, obviously money is important. You do need to be honest with yourself. And I think actually, sounds funny coming from a coach, I think the first thing you should do when planning your career is sit down and ask yourself a very important question. That question is, what do I want with my personal life? Do I want to have kids? Do I want to live in the city? When you answer all of those questions, then how much money you need to not be stressed out is the number you're looking for. It's very easy to say, I'd like to make $100,000 a month. Look, that's fabulous. You know what the truth is? The truth is most people who make that much probably would be less happy. When you have that much money, it doesn't necessarily make your life better. There is an inflection point where you actually probably get less happy with more money. But you need to ask that to yourself. Where do I want to go with my life? And when you get to that point, you say, okay, how much money will I need after taxes? You figure that out. Okay, how many years will it take until I'm at that point where I actually need that much money? And then you can decide, okay, realistically, I need $60,000 a year now. In about 5 years, if I get to where I want to be, I'll need to be making $100,000 a year. When you get those actual numbers, then you can actually look at the career options. And if you're being reasonable with yourself, you'll probably have many more options than you initially thought. People hear this all the time from people who really care about them, quite frankly, and they always brush it away. No, I'm better than that. I can make more money. That's not necessarily the case. I've had opportunities multiple times in my career where I could have gone somewhere else, done something different, and absolutely confidently made a lot more money, and I chose not to do that. And I'm happy and better off for it. So before you pick your career, figure out what you're going to do with your life. I know you might not have all your answers, but you should have a general idea. Do you want kids? Do you not? Do you like living in the city? Not. These things make a huge difference. But I think there's never a case where you need to be paid the absolute most. I don't think that's realistic. And that actually makes your job search a lot harder. If you're vying for one job that pays a ton of money, you're going for obviously something very competitive. It's going to make it tricky for you. So before we continue with the next videos, I encourage you to think pretty deeply about this. If you have a girlfriend or a wife or a husband or a boyfriend, have these conversations and plan it out. It's in an interview, where do you want to be in 5 years? When I talk to people, I like saying, where do you want to be in 10 years? With your life, not with your career. Because understanding your life helps you plan your career better. And ultimately, you spend a lot of time at work, so you really have to enjoy what you're doing. All right. Good talk. I'll see you guys in the next video.